What's happening, people? It's Brett here from Bad Intentions Boxing. I hope you're all keeping well and safe. I've got Steve Wood with me. Steve, I'm really pleased to have you on. How are you doing?
Yeah, everything's good, really. Strange times, Brett, aren't we? But we're all having to cope with it and get on with it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult for everybody involved at the moment, and more so than in the world of boxing. The effect that it's had completely with the situation and everything that's been going on. Lack of shows, lack of investment, lack of money. How would you say that that's affected you in terms of what you can and what you can't do?
Well, obviously, I don't just promote, I do manage fighters. The idea of the promotions is that I manage a lot of fighters who aren't like top amateurs who are coming along. They're good fighters, but they ain't going to get straight away onto the TV shows. And so I'm doing the promotions to build them up, get them a good record, develop them, and eventually get them onto the TV. So I would say 80% of my fighters fall in that category. So as a promoter, I just can't get them any work because they're relying on me to do the shows, and we probably lose money on 80% of our shows when we're getting ticket sales in. Now, to do one, we'd have no ticket sales in, we'd have extra costs of isolation, we'd have extra cost of testing. So, you know, we'd be looking at near on a 60, 70,000 pound loss to put a 6-fight card on. So it's just impossible. Yeah.
That's an extreme amount of money that we're talking about there, and everything else that you just mentioned as well. That there's the potential that we could have a lot of professional fighters that are involved within boxing that could potentially walk away because lack of funds and lack of opportunity that may never come back into the scene again.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've touched on it before on another interview. I mean, the thing is, the lads who fight on my shows, you know, they're not earning great money away. So they've always having it hard. When they're fighting, the money they get would only probably cover maybe the kit or the medical or whatever. So unless they were fighting regular, you know, they're not having a great standard of life through the boxing. So they've got other income coming in from maybe part-time jobs, even full-time jobs and sponsors. So the kids who should we say are dedicated and serious about being a boxer and being a good boxer and having a career out of it, you know, that way, I don't think we'll lose them. But there's a possibility the people who fight as travellers, journeymen, as you want to call them, and fight regularly to make a living because they don't do anything else, they'll have had to find jobs, and they might end up thinking, is it worth it? I don't know, but the kids with aspirations, I think, will hang on. But you know, it's difficult for them. I know lads who just trained for 9 months as if they were fighting and not had an opportunity. And as I say, 80% of my lads fall under that. The 20% that we're getting on the TV shows, we've got the contracted kids who are getting a chance to go on the TV and build a career. But I mean, once you've had a fight, it's like you're then back at the queue waiting for your other opportunity. Whereas once we was doing more TV shows and restricted to 7 on them at the moment, you know, he was 5 originally. You know, your opportunities weren't coming for a while, whereas before they was having shows with 12 fights on and more shows, and so there were regular opportunities for them. But you know, boxing's just the same as probably 90% of other businesses. It's hard. I've got other businesses that are hard, and you've just got to like taper your cloth to get by, hoping the good times will come back again.
And that's a real difficult outlook, I'm sure, from somebody that, you know, you aforementioned actually, that there's the potential that you could be losing 60 to 70,000 pounds a fight. Now, that's a massive investment for anybody who's putting them for the sake of having no income coming on the back of that. that must be a real struggle to have to decide with. The potential of that, am I going to be a madman and throw this much money at it with the potential of nothing coming back?
I don't think it's a difficult decision. You know, when you say it's a struggle, it's just a no-brainer. You can't afford to do it. I don't know of anyone who's done one except for a couple of people who's done streaming shows, and they've lost a lot of money. They've had sponsors or investors that have backed them to try it, but they've done it once and realised that he wasn't working, and they haven't done him again. So it's either you've got a TV company backing you and putting money into it so you can afford to do it, or you can't do it. And till the testing and the isolation rules are stopped, nobody will do it. And we certainly need to be getting crowds in there, because that's the only source of income for us.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's worthwhile mentioning as well, that the return of fans to the majority of sports within this country is affected, as you said earlier, boxing, football, all of these other sports that have been affected by it, but none more so than boxing, because I would say that the lack of investment that's coming from the government as well during this particular time, with real sort of amateur, ground level boxing, it seems to be non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, it was shocking, wasn't it, when they put, I forget how much money it was into sport, and rugby got a big lot, and bloody horse riding and everything else like that, but boxing got nothing. And the amateurs keeping kids off the street and giving them a focus and a direction is a big part of society, and helping society. So it was disappointing when they was missed out on that. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that boxing at the moment, definitely with individuals like yourself, that it's very much a sitting on the fence mentality, that we are just waiting for fans and the idea of some sort of revenue or income to come back in before we can actually start pursuing these other events or shows that aren't backed by TV, major TV broadcasters?
Yeah, 100%. So this vaccine's rolled out, and everyone's a little bit less scared of going out. Well, saying less scared, they can't go out, can they, at the moment? But we've got to get the vaccines out. We've got to make sure that we don't have to be testing everybody at the venue. We've got to make sure that we don't have to isolate them for 3-5 days in a bubble, and we've got to make sure we can get fans into the arenas as well. And till that happens, there won't be any small hall shows. I can guarantee that.
I mean, aside from that, I think you've been quite fortunate towards this year. I mean, you've managed to get some fighters out on shows already this year, haven't you?
Yeah, that was what I was saying to you. I mean, that's the promotion side. The management side, we've got some good kids, and we've had a mixture, really. We've had the good kids who are champions and be defending the titles, and kids who are good prospects, and they've been built up by the TV promoters. But we've also had good fighters who's like taken risks and gone as opponents against people and had fights. So there's been a mix of the two sides there, and we've had successes on both sides. Yeah.
And one of those successes, interestingly, there that we could talk about is Lyndon Arthur. Yeah.
I mean, Lyndon got the opportunity to defend his title, even though he was in the away corner against Yarder. But he was a champion and come back out as a champion, which was good.
And it was a fantastic result, and there's lots of plaudits that have been coming, not just from the European and British level, but also internationally, about how good that man's jab is and how good that man's jab was that night as well. Yeah. I
mean, I think he's certainly come up under the limelight, hasn't he? And not many people knew about him, and that's why he was such an outsider to the general public, except for everybody in Manchester who was aware of him, because he's fought most of his fights on the Black Fast shows, and I think he's fought a couple on the VIP shows, and obviously when he's been on the BT shows with Queensberry, it's been a bit down the card. So he didn't have the big build up that Yardy had, and he shocked a few people. And as they do, they say the winner should stay on, and hopefully he's going to move on now and get world title opportunities.
And is that a realistic opportunity for Lyndon Arthur, that he is going to get a world title fight?
I would have thought it's a no-brainer. I mean, it happened for Yardy, didn't he? And he's just beat him, so it'll happen for Lyndon, yeah.
And aside from that, with Josh Warrington, are we expecting any good news with Josh this week?
Well, it's going to be announced tomorrow about Matchroom that he's going to be fighting on February the 13th, which will be their first show of the year. I mean, I can say it, even though we wasn't supposed to till yesterday, because Eddie Earns put something out on Boxing Scene in an interview that he had a unification fight, which is everything he's wanted and what we've been preparing for the last 10 weeks, only to find out over the weekend that his opponent, the WBA champion Kansu, has pulled out. So he's dropped us in the lurch. So at the moment, we've not got a unification fight, and we're searching to get an opponent.
And is there any reasoning for that as to why Kansu's pulled out?
We've been told a couple of what we would class as excuses, but I wouldn't like to say what they are now, because I don't know if I'd be telling you the truth. But obviously, we'll find out in the long run and see if he does come at another date to fight Josh. But he's saying he doesn't want to fight behind closed doors now. But he had signed a contract, and obviously February the 13th was going to be. For saying that, when he signed the contract, we didn't know that we'd be in another lockdown. But you can imagine that he was expected. Yeah.
So is Josh still going to fight on February the 13th, or is that going to be shelved and pushed back?
No, 100% Josh is fighting on February the 13th, and there's a great undercard being announced tomorrow, which Zelfa Barrett's on, and also Reese Mould. That's against Lee Woods, which is a cracking fight. So he's got potential. I mean, when I say potential, if Kansu would have been coming over, it wouldn't have been potential. It would have been the best card that's been on lockdown across the world, without a shadow of a doubt. Dependent on who Josh is going to fight now, he's just got the potential of being the best card. Certainly the best card that's been in the UK anyway, because Zelfa's opponent, when it's announced tomorrow, will pick a few ears up as well. I mean, that's a great fight for him.
That's a great piece of news, I think, to hear from yourself, because that was something that I was unaware of as well. I've seen lots of things teetering this week along social media, etc., that Eddie Hearn's going to make this big announcement on Friday. But, some of the other fights that you've mentioned there that may not be at the top of people's minds are definitely at mine. And it sounds like there's some great matchups there, and potentially the Reese Mould fight. That definitely sounds something that I'll be intrigued to watch.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, if Kansu was turning up like he said he would have done, I mean, he actually throws more punches than Josh. I think one of the stats of his previous fights, in the last round alone, he's thrown something like 160 punches in round 12, and over the 12 rounds, he amassed a world record of throwing punches. So not dissimilar to Josh, it would have just been an absolutely fantastic fight.
I think that fight you're mentioning there in particular, I think it was against Robles III. I think he threw something like, don't quote me on it, 1,300 to 1,600 punches throughout that fight.
Yeah, I can't remember myself.
I think so. I think it was along the.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
So that there's the potential of another matchup and another fight that will be coming for Josh. So that's definitely something we'll look forward to and we'll listen out to. Yeah. Is there any news on Scott Fitzgerald?
Yes. Scott, as everyone know, had a bad patch, and he's through that now, and
great.
He's clean, for the better way of wording it, and he's refocused, and he's back in the gym and training, and I'm hoping that he's going to be announced on Friday for one of the shows. So we're focusing on early March, the return of the madman, but not so mad.
I think when he fought Anthony Fowler, I think he shocked a lot of people, and I wouldn't say there was an element that he looked like he'd shocked himself, but I think a lot of the boxing fans, and as we say, the neutrals that would have been watching that fight, were shocked at the finish. And it was definitely a shame to see what had happened to Scott. Mental health's it's not kind thing to anybody, but the potential that he's going to come back and he's got his head back in the game, that's a real win for boxing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, he's a character, and a lot of people love Scott Fitzgerald, and you can see why. And he's not just a character who can't fight; he's a character who can fight, And I think that's what's going to make him loved by the British public, because he has, again, got the capabilities of being a world champion. And one thing he possesses is a knockout punch, and that's what the public like to see as well. So he's got the boxing ability, he's got the character, and he's got the power punch, which bolts onto all that and makes him what he is an extremely exciting and loved person. And so it'd be great to get him back, and back into big fights as well. I mean, it'll probably be the end of the year before that's happened with what's gone through. But he's keen and eager to get back to where he was, and then start stepping up and go for the world title. And he's got all Preston behind him, and he as soon as the COVID's over, one thing we've got to work through is he's trying to get Deepdale packed, watching Scott Fitzgerald hopefully fighting for the world title.
That'll be a fantastic feature, and I think that'll definitely be something that needs to be evidenced and praised, that actually how well he's done to be able to come back from where he was. No, that's fantastic news. That's great to hear. The issue is that we're where we are. We need to wait for this vaccine rollout. Let's start getting crowds back into boxing. This is realistically where we look like we're going to get anything below TV level that's really going to start picking up again.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we do is, before we usually end, I don't know whether you're happy to do it or you're not, Steve, I put 3 questions out. You can answer them if you want. You don't have to answer them if you don't want. They're all politically correct. There's nothing untoward with them. Are you happy to take part with that?
Well, I will try. I don't know what they are. You could have pre-warned me, but yeah, go on. Let's have a bash.
So, will Lyndon Arthur win a world title?
Yes.
Cole Frampton, will he beat, Jamel Herring?
Do you know, Carl trains in the gym down here with Jamie Moore, and I personally don't think he's big enough for the super featherweight, but he's a very clever fighter, and I think he's picked the right opponent. So even though he's going to be a lot smaller than Jamel Herring, I think not just because he's a smart fighter, because he's a clever man as well, and pick the right opponent. And what he has got that people don't see, and he stuck in with Josh Warrington when not many people would have done. He's got a desire to fight, and he's got a desire to win a three-weight world title. So even though originally I was going against him, I think his cuteness in the ring and his desire will bring him through, because he's got the right opponent to do it. Yeah. So the answer to that one, he will be, yes.
2021. You can pick any fight. Who's your 2 fighters?
The 2 fighters that I'd like to see. Against each other, or 2 fights?
You can pick 2 fights, or you can have 2 fighters against each other.
Right. Dearie me. I'd like, obviously, Joshua and Fury, which I think we are going to see. I'm looking forward to that. But if I could make another fight, I'd like to see, and they're talking about it, Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, yeah.
That's definitely a fight that I'd like to see as well, so I agree with you on that. Yeah. Steve, I'm extremely grateful for your time. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. Yeah. I'm Brett. This is Bad Intentions Boxing. Thank you very much.